Good morning, Singapore, and welcome to The Big Show. It's a Tuesday morning, and so we have with us our award-winning psychologist, Dr. Geraldine Tan from the Therapy Room. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Jerry. And today is a big day for you and every other parent who is the parent of a 12-year-old because the PSLE results are released tomorrow.
They are. So very apt topic for today. We are going to talk about getting those exam results.
Okay, so let me ask you a question before we move into that topic. On a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious are you for tomorrow?
Anxious for the results or anxious for my child?
Okay, I love this.
Yeah.
Okay, so the results?
First.
1 to 10?
Okay.
I'm not worried at all.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And for your daughter?
I'm concerned she's getting more anxious. You know, Grandpa was supposed to bring her, and then suddenly last night she pops out and go, "Mommy, can Daddy fetch me instead to get the results?" So you know her anxiety is escalating as the hours tick by.
Ooh.
Okay, so you are more concerned about how she feels and not so much about how she does.
Yeah, I mean, what's done is done, right? If she has studied, she has studied. You know, whatever happened on that day, I don't know, and no one knows, right? So, we'll deal with whatever results that come. I think, looking at her being more and more anxious makes me anxious.
There you go, parents. So if you're watching right now or listening to us right now and you're feeling anxious, you can only control so much.
Yes, that is true.
You know what I mean?
That is true.
You can't, you basically, I mean, what you have to do is just get ready to reward your kid.
Yes.
Because I'm very sure your kid is going to do well.
Yeah, and take care of how your kid feels when the results get released as well.
Right? Get that $1,000 ang pao already.
Wow.
Oh no, monetary rewards. Okay.
Okay, so Dr. Jerry, what would you reward your daughter, or I mean, what's going to happen after the results, or should we continue this conversation on the Big Show TV?
Should we? Are you asking me a question?
Yes, I'm asking you, Supreme Leader.
No.
Okay.
Just carry on talking to Jerry
Dr.
for
Jerry,
a little bit more. That question.
So, should there be a reward after the results come out, or how should parents behave despite the rewards?
I think there always should be a celebration, a closure of sorts. Yeah, for you to mark the end of a chapter. So it's really a chapter that is over, right? And you know how we close it becomes very important for the child to understand that they have completed and they are moving on to the next stage of their life.
Okay, let's continue talking to Jerry on the Big Show TV.
You know, Jerry, the results are out tomorrow.
Yes.
And parents are anxious, kids are anxious. We should be talking to our kids, prepping them for this. How early should we have started?
That's an interesting question. We tend to try and deny our emotions. So for most of the students, once the major exam is done, right, they would just go, I just want to sleep. I want to play. I just want to be on my phone all day. I just want to do the things that I want to do. I want to Netflix all day, or YouTube all day. And they are permitted. They have done well to complete the national exams, right? So the prepping may not start from then. It will be rather annoying if you have completed your exams and somebody next in your year, you must be prepared, okay? You must be prepared, okay? Yeah, but usually what we do notice is a week before the results are released, or especially the days before the results are released, that there is anxiety that escalates. So for that period of time, the parents can check in, because your children, if they are appearing to be very uncomfortable with the thought, some of them would really be very restless or be very irritable, especially the teens tend to get a little bit more irritable. So we have the O-levels, A-level results coming out in January, early February. So they would get very, very anxious.
I remember that's the horrible part, right? I mean, after the
the
exams, we're
waiting.
all so happy.
Yeah.
And then, as Jerry says,
Just
about a week
little bit
before the
before.
results are out, right?
Yeah.
The mood changes.
Oh, it does.
I mean,
It does.
so it's easy to say what's going to happen if the child does well. But what if the child doesn't do as expected, even according to the child? Let's not even talk about the parents.
Okay, so when we enter and we get that result, right? I want all parents and students, so whether you are a primary school student or, secondary school or JC student, is to tell yourself, I have done everything I can.
yeah.
I've done everything I can. Now, it sounds very funny because then the parents will start asking, what if they are lazy and they didn't put in effort? I knew they could put in effort. But for whatever effort that they put in, they had put in at that point in time. You can't go
change
back.
that. Yeah.
No, you cannot go backwards to change whatever that has been done. So I have done everything I can at that point in time. So I will then receive. So now then it is acceptance, right? I need to receive the results and say, I will open my mind and accept whatever that, that piece of paper brings. Yeah. So that's difficult. It's easy to say, but it's difficult. But if you prep yourself and you tell yourself, I am going to accept whatever it brings, then the next step can occur, which is to plan. When you get your results, there is always a next step. What do I do then? But you need to accept the results first in order to plan.
That's interesting because when my kids were going through their PSLE and we were prepping for results, yeah, you're right, it's about a week before, I asked them the question, did you do all you could do? And if they turned to me and said yes, then I said, your result doesn't matter. It doesn't, because you've done all you can do. You cannot do more than all you can do.
At the time.
At the time.
How many
Whatever,
kids
whatever.
do all that they can do? They're all lying, lah. I mean,
If I finish all the questions, I'm very happy
but
already.
it's not untrue if they say that, whether they were not as hardworking as the parents think they are or anything. They just said, I did all that I could do
I
at
did
the
all-
time. It's not
yeah.
really a lie.
It's not a lie. I did all that I could do. And if you did all you can do, then whatever you get is the best you can get.
Because the difference is
At that point.
did you do all you can do that you're capable of is a different question. You know what I
different
mean?
story.
Right.
But if
It's a different
if
question.
they just said, yeah, I did all I could do, then okay, we'll see what happens with the results then. You better party hard now. And then after tomorrow, you're not getting any privileges.
Now, I just want to pick up on that, Jerry. So, and now we'll see what the results are.
Which will prove what you did.
Isn't that almost, yeah, I don't believe you.
Right.
It sounds like, yeah, I don't believe you.
Well, I mean, you've seen it for yourself. You know what I mean? Most parents are very observant.
Yes.
Yeah.
They know.
Because
they
when I
ask
was a
their
kid,
kids,
yeah.
have you tried your best? But deep down inside, they know that their kids have not tried their best.
If that's what it is, yeah.
But they just want to hear it from their kids. You know what I mean? Unless, of course, you're a parent who has no idea what your kids are up to.
Yeah.
And that's a different story altogether. But if you're an observant parent, you'll know whether your kid has done his or her best.
That is true.
Dr. Jerry?
So, when you say we see what the results are, there are two ways to look at it, right? We'll see what the results are, and it's like what FD says, sometimes we doubt the children, or it could be, let's see what the results are, and we will take the next step. So let's always look at what else we can plan, because you can only plan when the results come, right? Because it's in stages. So we're looking at intent here. So the children don't hear the words. They hear the intent behind the words.
Should parents prep for the worst as well as the best?
You prep for an outcome. So it's a neutral space that I would encourage parents to be in, especially if your children cannot take that neutral space. Because sometimes the children say, I've done the best I can, but their tone is, I'm full of worry, I'm full of fear, and they are worried that they had not done the best they can to the best of their ability, which sometimes we hear many of the students say afterwards, oh, if only I had not, done this, if only I had not done that, I could have done this, if I had more time, I could finish that last question. So there's always full of regrets that our discerning children, our intelligent children would also think about. So they are also they would contemplate and reflect on their own actions. Not all of them would just bumble through life. Many of them would contemplate and think about it. Therefore, you have a lot of children, having depressive signs, anxiety symptoms, because they are so aware of the expectations they need to accomplish. So
Okay, Shaun.
Dr. Jerry, I have a question.
From the therapy room.
Dr. Jerry, we're speaking about PSLE results, collecting them tomorrow. My question is, what do you say to kids who are comparing themselves with their friends?
Yeah, so often, and this is one big point on my notes here, is do not compare. What's the point of comparing? Right? So if you received your results slip, don't go and ask your friend, oh, what did you get? Oh, I got this. And what is the point of doing that? Right? So what if you got higher than your friend? So what if you got lower than your friend? Ultimately, you have to make a decision on the schools that you go to, on the future that you're going to take, on the next steps that you're going to take. So you would need to look at your own individual scorecards, score sheets, result slips, and decide for yourself what would you like to do at that point, from that point forward.
But it's motivation, right, Jerry? For some people, they're motivated.
Competitive?
Yeah, they need to compete in order to be motivated.
But it's done already. There's no motivation. The exam's over.
Yeah, but then, if you compare your results to someone else and that person has done, worse than you, then you feel better.
Oh, dear.
Well,
Glenn, is that what you usually do?
Yes,
Of course it is. Yes. Yes.
I would hope none of my kids ever did that, quite honestly.
Oh, dear.
Why?
So, yeah,
Why?
if you do that, then we would need to ask ourselves, how come we need that validation? How come we need to put someone else down to feel on top?
Yeah.
No, you're not putting that person down. You're just
You're making yourself feel better.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, okay, you've scored this much, and then you ask someone else, like, okay, so how do you do? Oh, and you know that person has done, rather badly, and you just smile.
Does that make it okay, Dr. Jerry, that you just do it for your own, benefit?
It still tells me that you don't trust yourself and you don't trust your ability. If you do trust yourself, you know that you've done what you can, then there's no need to look at the other person and go, haha, I got higher than you.
No, because I always try to teach my kids not to do that, because one day the shoe may be on the other foot. And then how are you going to feel?
If what?
Yeah.
Well, if
The shoe's on the other foot.
if you're gonna dish it, you better be able to take it.
But how many can?
Well, then, yeah.
It's a...
If someone
we
did
all
better than
know.
me, he must have cheated.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Wow.
Okay, we're talking to Dr. Jerry about the PSLE results, which will be coming out tomorrow at about 11 a.m. If correct me if I'm wrong, that's when they get released. And Dr. Jerry is not the only one who has a 12-year-old amongst our collaborators. It's also Bibi that has her son
that's
Dylan,
right. Dylan,
who is expecting his results tomorrow as well. So if you're a parent, if you're a parent also expecting the PSLE results tomorrow, join us as we continue this conversation.
Dr. Jerry, I understand your point that you brought up earlier that we need to be in a neutral space. I agree with that. But we are watching our child head towards these results. Our child is lacking in confidence. Our child feels that if they don't make the grade, life begins to fall apart. Do we prep them for that? Do we acknowledge that maybe they're not going to meet the grade they want?
Prep that their life is going to fall
like,
apart.
their education is going to start to slump.
Really? If that is what the parent believes...
No, this is what the child believes.
Why?
No, this is what the child is thinking.
Exactly.
How does the parent help them then?
Well, so, okay, whether the child does well or whether the child doesn't do well, there are a few things that we probably need to do, right? We celebrate a closure of that chapter.
Yeah.
And then we look at options for the child that has done that has obtained results that opens a lot of doors, or we have options for the child that results is limited or has limited doors, but still having doors open for the child or students. So we need to look at what options there are for both types of both extremes, everybody in between also. So the options are always there. It's just what options are there.
Yeah. Because I went through this with one of my girls who was very uncomfortable about getting her PSLE results, and she really felt that if she went to she wanted to go to a specific school, and if she didn't get into that school, then education started to slip away.
Okay.
And I had to say, no, that's not how it works. Your education continues. You just
Correct.
because you're not going to the school that you want, it doesn't mean you're going to go to a school that is going to educate you less.
Well, I don't know about that.
What do you mean?
Well, but I like, what FD is saying, right? Because FD, what you've drawn out is that some of our students go into the results hall or go through life thinking that there is one option and one option only.
Yes.
That rigidity of their thought processes is their downfall because they are not opening up options for themselves. So earlier I mentioned, right, when you go into the results hall or go through life, to then keep an open mind. Right? So if you lock yourself into one option, then it's either do or die. So many of these students, if they don't hit whatever that they want, they die. Literally. We have teachers on standby who are so worried at this point. Whether it is primary school teachers, secondary school teachers, they're all on standby. Many of them are equipped to look out for the signs and symptoms of children that are spiraling the second they get the results because they believe that my results define me and there is only one option. Yeah. But that's not true. And that's something that I want to remind all parents, to remind your children that no matter what, right? As long as you have a life, you have options. Sorry, I got very passionate because last night was Healing Hearts again, and for mothers who have lost their children to suicide. So every time after the session, it brings a lot of thoughts and reflections. And Saturday was International Survivor or Suicide Survivors. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw
Okay.
your social media actually about healing hearts with the with the mothers and all that. And I can't imagine. I mean, it's so hard.
We can't even imagine that. But I have to say, my parents were extremely supportive when I went through my PSLE because I scored A's in everything. Except for my
second
Chinese, which I failed at.
And that kind of like pulled everything down,
which
right?
meant I had to repeat my primary
Which
six.
was rubbish.
What?
I had to repeat my primary six, yes, because you needed your second language to go into secondary
I
school.
thought it was more English though. If you fail your
no,
English,
no,
then
no.
Second
It was second
language, bro.
language.
Oh.
Second language.
And
Yeah.
and then when we got the results, it's kind of like we knew I wouldn't do well. You know what I mean? But we didn't expect an F. But my parents were just kind of like, well, then you're just gonna have to do it again.
yeah.
And I did again, and I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's very important
It's a
that
crappy system,
I think
really.
it's very important that the parents are well prepared to just say it's okay. You can do it again if need be.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. You just move on and life goes on.
But I mean, back in the day, I think it was a horrible system.
Back
I
in
don't
the day
think it's
was
like
worse.
this anymore.
No,
right?
back in the day was
Because
worse.
the number of people who are actually brilliant, for example, I mean, you scored A's, but because of your Chinese, you had to repeat
Yeah,
your
and
PSLE.
it's something I don't even use.
And similarly, there were people who perhaps maybe were really strong in Chinese, but failed the English,
yeah.
and
had to
moved
do
on.
the same.
were looked upon as failures as
Yeah,
well. It's
Yeah.
horrible for a kid.
It is. Yeah.
Horrible system.
I mean, I think the worst part for me was being the older kid in primary six. In the next year.
Yeah, the next
You
year.
know what I mean? You're like you're not so much older,
Yeah.
but
You're the
you're a
gang
whole
leader.
year old. Not really, but like you're a whole year older than everybody else and you
Yeah.
feel really, really out of place. I think that's the worst part because, I mean, I think the results are
Yeah.
just... For me, it was just the beginning because, there were so many other things that came with
But
it.
at that age, no child should have to go through something like that.
Yeah.
Because they're not stupid. They're not,
And they're not equipped to go through
they're
something
all
like
brilliant, actually.
that. They all have different strengths.
Jerry, that is true. I mean, a kid at 12 is really not equipped for this kind of pressure. are they?
Exactly.
No, and it's gotten to. I mean, through the years, I think Glenn says it's got better. I don't know about that because our children are more intelligent. They're more informed. They understand concepts more, so they do feel a lot more pressured. So you have your P3, P4s feeling a lot of pressure. By the time they get to P5, they know what the implications of PSLE is already. So they do feel a lot. I mean, at least for the young ones that I see, they do feel a lot of anxiety.
And they've got a lot more to deal with now because the bullying follows them online as well. It's not
Yes.
just in school that they have to deal with like what we had to deal with in school, When we went home, everything was done. But now when they go home, they're bombarded by everything that's online, social media.
It's 24 hours.
It's 24 hours. So it must be a lot harder for them now, despite the results not being so stringent as back in the day.
Update.
So, Jerry, I was talking about kids and the pressures of this PSLE. They're not really equipped for this, are they?
Emotionally, they
Yeah.
are still very young. So intellectually, they are exposed to so much information. They are, very informed, intelligent. But, having an intelligent brain, so high IQ doesn't mean high EQ. So the emotional brain is still not quite there yet. And it still needs a lot of hand holding by the parents. So where the parents come in is how they act and how they react, So I'm hearing, Angel, your parents have been quite chill about it and made the process very comfortable, right? So that's when, parents don't hide. I've got parents that actually make the children lie to the relatives and friends.
Oh, no. About their results?
About the results, about repeating perhaps, or having to go to a not so branded school, and then they are told to lie to the friends, to the relatives, and the children feel horrible. And their question is, am I not good enough for my parents even? So if the home environment tells them that they are no good, then they go into society and continue life understanding that they are no good. So, it really starts from the home.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
So Angel, your Mandarin wasn't great. My Mandarin wasn't great as well.
Yeah.
But did you have like Chinese tuition? Because I had.
I had Chinese tuition, but I mean, it was just, firstly, I was not interested in the language at all. My parents didn't speak it. My dad
Not at
didn't.
all?
No, not at all. My dad doesn't speak Mandarin.
Okay.
So because he comes from a Peranakan family, so they spoke a mix of English and Malay and Hokkien, obviously, but no Mandarin. He didn't even take Mandarin in school.
Then why didn't you take Malay?
Because I couldn't, because my surname is Teo.
Right.
So back in the day,
Once again.
yeah, my IC,
God, the rubbish.
my IC for the longest time, I think until I was 12 years old, read Chinese.
Okay.
And it was only when my mom intercepted and said, it needs to be Eurasian, because that if you put Chinese, that means she is being disregarded as a mother.
Right.
And then it got switched to Eurasian. But if I had been Eurasian from the start, then I would have probably had the option of taking Malay. But back in the day, I didn't have that option.
Yeah.
There were no
Back
two
in
ways
the day,
about it.
yeah.
Yeah, no two ways. So, yeah, failed terribly at Mandarin. Who knows? I may have done really badly in Malay as well, but it is what it is, right? And the results were what they were, and here I am today.
I just want to say I had a hot tuition teacher.
That's why you had a
Okay,
smile on your
now.
face.
I think that helped.
You were like, so Angel, did you have tuition? And you're like, a big smile on your face. Now we know why.
I was like, what? Okay,
12?
11?
11, 12, yeah.
11, 12. And she was still a student.
Oh,
You know, one of those things,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, older
Glenn,
student.
Yeah.
Glenn was the only kid who would turn to his mom with a big smile on his face going,
Yeah.
I'm going for tuition, mom.
What time's she coming?
We're on air, but
She had nice legs. But,
of course.
on the radio now.
On the
We have to
radio.
say bye to Dr. Jerry.
Okay, Dr. Jerry, any final words for those, for
Yes.
parents and students?
Yeah, a couple of things or tips for parents today. Make sure that you tell your children, you've done everything you can. Have them eat well, sleep well, stay with a routine, have them stay with someone comfortable. And for one of the young girls, young teens who is walking out of a depression, she gave me this line, and I will share it with everyone with her permission. She says, let us work to better ourselves and not for the perception of others. And this is a teen girl who gave me this statement.
Nice.
Wow,
Really
nice.
nicely done.
Very nice.
okay.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Dr.
you, Jerry.
I love you.
And all the best to your
for
daughter as
tomorrow.
well, and
Yeah.
yourself for
Thank
the PSLE
you.
result
And
tomorrow.
to Bibi also.
All
Deep
right.
breaths.
Take care, Jerry.
Bye-bye, Jerry.
Big kiss.